Is Jesus God, the creator of all things? Isaiah 45 verses 5 through 7. I am Jehovah, and there is no one else. There is no God except me. I will strengthen you, although you did not know me, in order that people may know from the rising of the sun to its setting, that there is none besides me. I am Jehovah, and there is no one else. I form light and create darkness. I make peace and create calamity. I, Jehovah, am doing all these things. Meaning there is no one else. There are no other gods. There are no other gods. It is just one God who created all things. Isaiah 45:12. I made the earth and created man on it. I stretched out the heavens with my own hands. Let me repeat that. He said with his own hands. Now let's go to John 1 verse 3, which we all know is talking about Jesus. All things came into existence through him, and apart from him, not even one thing came into existence. Meaning, there is nothing else that exists that was not made by Jesus, making Jesus God the Creator himself. Now, to expose the lies of the Watchtower and Tract Society, we're going to go into their 1984 edition of the New World Translation, found on the Jehovah's Witnesses website. From their 1984 edition, search Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. Speaking about Jesus here, it reads, because by means of him, all other things were created in the heavens and upon the earth, the things visible and the things invisible, no matter whether they are thrones or lordships or governments or authorities. All other things have been created through him and for him. Also, he is before all other things, and by means of him, all other things were made to exist. Now, as you can see that the word other is in brackets, and that's because the word other does not belong in these verses. The words other does not exist at all in these verses. They changed the meaning of these verses by inserting the word other. Now, what happens if you take out the word other from these verses how it should be? Let's read these verses without the word other. Because by means of him all things were created in the heavens and upon the earth, the things visible and the things invisible, no matter whether they are thrones or lordships or governments or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. Also, he is before all things, and by means of him all things were made to exist. Making Jesus who? God, the Almighty, creator of all things and above all things. Now, let's go into their 2013 edition of the New World Translation and see how they removed the brackets from the word other, completely changing the meaning of verses 16 and 17. And here is their 1984 edition side by side with their 2013 edition of the New World Translation. And how can we prove that the word other does not belong in verses 16 and 17? We will use their Greek interlinear off their website, and you will see that the word other is not at all present in these verses. We can also go to the King James Version and see how it reads. Colossians 1 verses 16 and 17. For by him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. All things were created by him and for him. And he is before all things, and by him all things consist.
Still, Jehovah's Witnesses maintain that theirs is the only true religion. All others constitute the worldwide empire of false religion, the whore of Babylon spoken of in the book of Revelation. The Watchtower says these religions are guilty of spiritual fornication with the political and commercial rulers of the world, and will all be slaughtered by God at Armageddon. Only the true Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses, will survive. F.M. Geip, a Watchtower spokesman and member of the headquarters staff, explains.
Well, we feel Jehovah's Witnesses are the only true religion, otherwise we would be teaching something else. But the reason is because we follow the Bible completely.
To support its beliefs, the Watchtower organization has published its own version of the Bible called the New World Translation. To lend credence to this translation, the Watchtower Society has deliberately misquoted a number of well-known Greek scholars. Dr. J.R. Manty, an eminent Greek scholar, was one of the authorities quoted out of context. The Watchtower Society has implied that he supports their New World Translation. Dr. Manty disagrees.
I have never found any so-called translation that goes so far away from what the Scripture actually teaches as these books published by Jehovah's Witnesses. They are so far away from what there is in the original Hebrew and the original Greek.
Dr. Manty called the Jehovah's Witness Bible a shocking mistranslation, obsolete and incorrect.
You can't follow theirs because it's biased and it's deceptive, because they deliberately changed words in the passage of Scripture to make it fit into their doctrine. They distorted the Scripture in many passages, scores and scores of passages in the New Testament, dealing with the deity of Christ especially.
To find additional support for their altered scriptures, the Watchtower has even turned to the occult. The New Testament, a Bible translation by Johannes Grieber, has been used as an authority in many of their publications. Johannes Grieber was a spiritualist, heavily involved with the occult. His translation was completed under the direction of spirit messengers, with the aid of his wife, who was a self-professed spirit medium. The willingness of the Watchtower to accept any authority is reflected in the words of Charles Taze Russell in the July 1879 issue of Zion's Watchtower, where he stated, "A truth presented by Satan himself is just as true as a truth stated by God. Accept truth wherever you find it, no matter what it contradicts." This philosophy is reflected in the New World Translation of Jehovah's Witnesses.